Hi, my name is Jada Santiago, and I am an 8th grader at Guilmette Middle School. I am honored to be here tonight to talk to you about Discovering Justice. The program has had an incredible impact on our 8th grade classrooms, but also me personally. During the 4 years I have been in middle school, I have been on a variety of field trips, but I had never been on one like the trip we took in March. As we left Lawrence, we were excited and a little nervous because we knew we were going to a courthouse. Many of us had been to Boston for field trips in the past, but this was nothing like the others we had experienced. We felt like there were high expectations. Maybe we even put those expectations on ourselves because we had been studying the founding of our country and the Constitution. When we arrived at the Moakley Courthouse, we quickly realized we were right, and this was not your ordinary school field trip. This felt different, and everyone knew this was a time to be serious. We saw important people walking around, thought about how there were real trials about to take place, and understood that on that day, we were part of something larger than we had ever experienced before. We met our guide and listened as she explained some of the interesting things about the symbolism of the building, learning that the glass wall was used to represent how the justice system was open so that everyone was part of the process and entitled to representation. We met lawyers who explained how they work with their clients, and then acted as our judges as we undertook the job of arguing a case. At school, we had been learning about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, but now here we were in a federal courthouse to try our case. Eventually, we made our way to a real courtroom and prepared to argue a Fourth Amendment case, a case some of you may be familiar with, New Jersey versus TLO. It was a powerful case to study because it set a new benchmark for searching the property of a public school student. Even though she was found guilty of delinquency in the end, the case went all the way to the Supreme Court. Knowing that our rights as students are worth that level of attention really helped us understand that our rights are as important as the rights of adults. That is what school should be like, getting out of classrooms and experiencing what we actually are learning about, and learning about the things that are part of our real lives. Thank you, and please welcome my friend and classmate, Celeste.
Hi, my name is Celeste Lozada, and I appreciate the chance to share my thoughts with you tonight. As Jada, Ashley, Darlene, and I were talking about our experiences, I found that the thing that impacted me the most was when we took what we had learned in the courthouse into our own lives. While we used Discovering Justice as a way to learn right here in this building, as Jada shared, I find that the Discovering Justice programming we do in our own classroom is just as interesting. After the experience with the TLO Fourth Amendment case, we decided to investigate Discovering Justice's case about the First Amendment. To build on what we had already done, we felt it would be best to have a mock trial. This time, we used our classroom as the courtroom. The case we argued was Tinker versus Des Moines Independent School District. The case involved students who were suspended from school for wearing black armbands to protest the Vietnam War. As part of the activity, my teacher randomly split us up into two groups, then borrowed a student from another class to be our judge. I was assigned to represent Tinker. Being able to represent a student was an eye-opening experience for me because I feel that if my rights were ever violated, I could stand up for myself like Mary Beth Tinker, who was only 13 years old at the time. As we investigated what had happened, I found myself relating to her choices. This could be me. I could be in this kind of position someday. I always knew I had rights, but now I also know I have a voice. In my role as attorney, I stood up for Mary Beth Tinker in front of my 15 classmates. I had to come up with and argue some key points to defend my student, and to be honest, it was nerve-wracking. In order to defend my client, I had to face the appellate judge who, in this case, happened to be a friend of mine, but believe me, she didn't do me any favors. Reenacting this trial and diving deep into the First Amendment was fascinating because it let us relive the actual case. Even though I knew the outcome in advance, I enjoyed the opportunity to argue for my client. I made my arguments powerful enough to stump the other side and sway the judge. These are just a few of the lessons I have learned from this program, and I hope to play a future role in changing history through justice for others. It is now my pleasure to introduce my friend Ashley.
Hello, my name is Ashley Fernandez, and I'm honored to be here with you tonight. There are so many things about my humanities classes and discovering justice that have had a positive impact on me. But more than anything, I have reflected more on rights. My rights, your rights, and everybody's rights. At my age, you don't really think about rights too often. Honestly, what most people remember is that when you turn 18, you can vote. That is how rights are taught to most young people. We are taught that someday we will have rights, and someday our voice will be important. We are more focused on what rules our mother has or when we have to be home at night. This year, it has come clear to all of us that our personal rights are part of our everyday life. Sometimes rights are honored, and sometimes rights are violated. However, the more you learn about these rights, the more you can do to be sure that your rights are protected. In the last year, there has been news reports about transgender students using bathrooms they feel comfortable using. I didn't understand this at first because there was so much confusion and noise from all the sides. Then I learned more about it and I realized this was about rights. Rights that some thought they didn't have. But in fact, they do. I think it's important for everyone to understand that we are all entitled to our opinions and that your rights are not more important than somebody else's. When you focus on rights and when you focus on the rule of law, in essence, you can understand how everything works. You understand politics, you understand how the president was elected, how law goes through Congress, and how rights laws take a lot of people and establish a process to make things happen. Sometimes people are under the impression that teenagers don't think about things, but we do. We think about how the world works and how we fit into the world and what it will be like when we grow up. We think about how the things people do to us and feel for us and how people see us. For example, when I was in the courtroom upstairs, well, we're upstairs, I felt like I had more rights while I was there. I know that my rights don't change based on where I am, but I think it's important to go on field trips like the one we took so you can feel the weight of your rights and know you are equally important to everyone else under the law. When we walked into the courtroom, there was lots of books about rights, books about the law. But when I started speaking, everything I had prepared came down to me being able to apply the law to defend someone's rights. It was inspiring, and I am determined to do more for me and for those behind me. I want to close this with a quote from one of my favorite people, Lin-Manuel Miranda. We listen to the Hamilton soundtrack all the time as we do our social studies work, and our track in particular. The world was wide enough has stuck me since the first time I heard it. My favorite line goes, legacy. What is a legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden that you will never get to see. I think that doing what you know is the right thing, even though you know you are unlikely to ever benefit, is what Discovering Justice is doing with us. I would now like to introduce my friend Darlene.
Hello, my name is Darlene Gomez Garcia, and I am extremely happy to be with you tonight. When I landed on USA soil for the first time in 2009, the first thing my dad did was sign my siblings and I up for school. My father told us that we must always focus on our education because the main reason why we immigrated from the Dominican Republic to the United States was for a better future. One day I remember seeing my aunt studying. I asked her what she was doing, and she responded that she was studying for the naturalization test. I was confused and asked what it was. She said it is a test taken by U.S. residents in order to become citizens. I asked what was the difference between a resident and a citizen. I asked a lot of questions. And to this day, I still remember what she told me. Being a citizen of the United States gives you the keys to the doors that were once locked when you were just a resident. I asked her if I could study with her, and she told me not to worry, because all I needed to know would be taught to me in school. At the beginning of middle school, I really had no true interest for history. To me, it was all about remembering facts and not about understanding them. The main reason why I felt this way was since many students didn't have history as a core class, I thought, if my teachers didn't think it was important, why should I? This year, especially because of Discovering Justice, my curiosity for history bloomed. I learned that the Bill of Rights had a much greater purpose than just memorizing the amendments in order to pass a test. In a way, the Bill of Rights changed my view of the world. It taught me that with knowledge comes power. It was amazing to learn about the Bill of Rights in such a unique way, but coming right here to the courthouse for the Discovering Justice program, as Jada had mentioned earlier. I now know the importance of learning about humanities with programs like Discovering Justice. Something I learned is that no matter your nationality, color of your skin, or sexual orientation, you will always be protected by a greater power under the Constitution. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Donahue, and I am lucky enough to teach these wonderful young ladies. Please, one more round of applause. I'd also just like to mention a colleague of mine who couldn't be here tonight, Mrs. Jennifer Ryan, who is also one of their humanities teachers. I want to take a minute to thank Ann Gogol, MJ Bastian, John Spack, and the rest of the team at Discovering Justice. Your efforts and flexibility in bringing so many of our students here to the courthouse was really amazing. Thank you. The curriculum helped bring our humanities program to life back at the school also. Humanities, unfortunately, is often overlooked in schools not only here but across the country. And our 8th grade students certainly have gaps in their history and civics education. But that hasn't diminished their desire to learn more about it. At our school, we believe humanities is about critical thinking, and the Discovering Justice curriculum has helped push our students to make meaningful connections between history, the world in which they live today, and the one that they will inherit tomorrow. The program has enabled them to ask hard questions, explore multiple perspectives, and have fierce debates about topics that engage them. We truly appreciate the opportunity to offer this program to our school and are grateful to be here today. Thank you.